Welcome back everyone, Oz here, and today I've got some r/EntitledPeople for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the post, giving you my opinions at the end, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. Kristen O'Casey. Wrong way, serve me anyway. I once managed a very popular coffee shop back in the day. It was located in a medium-sized coastal town and was a regular stop for our local police force. I happened to be working the day when a couple in a big SUV drove the wrong way into the drive-thru. About the same time, a couple of other cars were in the drive-thru the right way. Finished ordering and drove forward, only to see the misplaced SUV blocking them. Did the car entering the wrong way realize their mistake and back up? Of course not! I was very quickly called over by my very flustered cashier just as the passenger's side window came down and the wife started barking out an order. I saw the situation and explained to them that not only were they facing the wrong way, but they had also cut in line. Their response? Well, we're here now, so just take our order, and we will back out when we get our drinks. No, I don't play that way. I refused, told them they needed to back out and get in line or come in. Of course, they got angry and indignant, said they weren't moving without their drinks and repeated their demands. I said, okay, give me a sec, as I walked over to the table of 4 police officers who were enjoying their coffee but already noticed there was an issue at the window. Well, needless to say, the situation was quickly resolved. One officer told me it was the easiest ticket he ever wrote, and the driver had an expired license as well. The cops returned to newly fresh coffee when they were done with the SUV, who left without their drinks and much poorer in tickets. Occasionally, my job was very satisfying, and that was certainly one of those days. It does take a special kind of person to drive up to a drive-thru window, realize that the window's on their passenger side, and pretty much take the stance of, everyone else is wrong, serve me my drink anyway, and then I'll move. I feel like the fun, petty solution to this would be to serve the other customers their drinks and orders by just stepping out of the establishment and personally handing it to them and letting them know that this person is being a complete idiot and we can't get them to move. And yeah, just continue to refuse to serve the person and just take photos and videos of it and just let them know, we're not going to serve you until you come around the right way. And yeah, eventually the other customers are gonna begin honking their horns. And then if more attention is brought to it, because there's not always a convenient cop lying around, it's definitely gonna cause a pretty big scene where you have a bunch of cars in a drive-thru facing one way and some idiot who went in improperly and is trying to order through their passenger window. Hell, even people with import cars from Japan have found ways to deal with this where they reverse the drive-thru and properly handle it that way. Guy's new life hack just dropped: go to the ordering window through the wrong way and force them to serve you. That'll never go wrong. Lil Diddy 02 found one at the grocery store, but the cashier bit back. So, I'm a vendor that services a lot of grocery stores, but until today, hadn't really come across a good one. Well, until today. At a grocery store in the morning, fairly slow, 1 lane open, plus 4 self-checkout lines. Middle-aged couple comes up huffing and puffing that there's someone in line in front of them that's loading things onto the belt and being checked out, and it's ridiculous that there aren't more lines open. Cashier says that they can use a self-checkout. Husband says that he shouldn't have to do her job for her. Apparently 10 seconds is all he can take because he just mutters, "Fine," and walks over to the self-checkout. First item he scans at self-checkout needs cashier approval, so the poor girl running the area comes over to fix it, and he lays into her about how terrible the service is and how offended he is that he has to wait. While the cashier is trying to fix the item scan, customer looks over and sees the cashier manager showing another employee how to do something at the customer service desk. Cue a nice entitled "excuse me" while looking at her. She has no idea what's going on, so she asks, "How can I help?" He berates her for having a personal conversation, and she needs to open a lane for him right now, since she's on the clock, and he has places to be that are far more important than her conversation. She gives the biggest eye roll I've ever seen and says, "Okay, go to register 2, I'll be there in a second." He drags his wife to register 2 and starts unloading groceries. Cashier manager gets there and starts ringing him up. He asks her something, but I didn't hear what, and she said, "Sorry, I can't go check that. That'll take time and you have places to be." That apparently broke his brain because he just looked at his wife and said, "You handle this," and walked out of the store. Then the wife has the audacity to look at the cashier and say, "Can I break this into multiple transactions?" Cashier looked at her and said, "Sorry, I have places to be and I opened this to try to help out, so you get one transaction with me or you're welcome to go back into the other line that's open." Wife just hung her head and said, "Just check me out." I saw the husband talking to the manager in the entryway, so I made sure to grab the manager on his way in and tell him the cashiers did everything right and the guy was a jerk. Manager just said, "Yeah, I could tell 3 words into the conversation. He just didn't want to be happy." Some people. The goofiest part of this is if the guy just actually went through self-checkout or just went through the cashier's line that had a bit of a line initially, he probably would have actually gotten out a lot sooner and wouldn't have to wait as long as he did, but instead he had to make the entire situation about how much of a hurry that he's in, so he went and he pulled other employees off of their jobs and responsibilities to try and accommodate what he needed, and then got upset that they were not too happy or thrilled with his attitude. I remember when I was working in the service industry and I would deal with frustrating customers who would get frustrated with our new hires and be like, "I want to see a manager," or some shit like that. Oftentimes a manager wasn't on staff, and because I was a senior employee, I would end up at the front trying to help them out. And every fucking time they would always insult the lower staff, and I just had to kinda deal with it because I wanted them out of there. I didn't want to have to deal with them. But why is it that when they do get senior staff over or some shit like that, they instantly think they're gonna be on their side and it's just gonna be a hunky-dory scenario where, oh, it's just business as usual now? It's like, no, dude, you pulled me off the grill line. Now I have to do this transaction here and you're actively insulting the new hire who honestly did nothing wrong besides take an additional minute to figure out how to input your order. And same shit basically happened in this story where the guy was trying to ask the cashier, the new one that he fucking dragged out of the service area, random ass questions about things, and she didn't want to have to put up with it, so she was like, "You're in a hurry, so we're not going to do that." It really is just extremely frustrating that some people are like that, where they believe that just because you're a senior staff, you'll instantly side with them over the newer employees or other people on staff. Actual Donut, 9248. Entitled woman thinks she owns the drive-thru, throws a tantrum, and gets served by karma. And the police. I'm at a Chick-fil-A the other day. At this location, they have 2 drive-thru lanes. One for regular orders and one for mobile orders, where you skip the line if you use the app and scan a QR code. I always use the mobile lane because it's way faster. Well, not today. Enter entitled woman, EW. She cuts me off pulling into the lot, red flag number 1. But whatever, there's no one else in the mobile lane, so it's not a huge deal. I pull in behind her and immediately notice she's not holding a phone to scan a QR code like a normal person. Nope, she's sitting there, waving at the attendants. Newsflash, nobody monitors the mobile lane. So naturally, she starts laying on the horn like a lunatic, and an employee finally comes over. Before he's even at her car, she starts barking out her order, and not a short one. This woman orders like she's feeding an army. After ordering, she drives off without paying. The guy literally has to chase her down to get her payment. Then she pulls up to the window where I'm still stuck right behind her, despite having scanned my code and being ready to grab my food in seconds. The employee at the window asks her to pull around to one of the waiting spots. She refuses, saying, "No, it always takes longer if I pull around." The employee explains, very patiently, that pulling around won't delay her order, but it will let them serve the people behind her whose food is ready. She responds, "It's not really fair to prepare their orders before mine when I was here first." The employee tries to explain how food stations work, but she interrupts saying, "They should all be working on the first person's order. I know you just make minimum wage, but this really shouldn't be that hard to understand." After what feels like forever, the manager appears at the window. He leans out and very politely asks her to pull around, even promising to personally bring her food out as soon as it's ready. To top it off, he offers her a complimentary peppermint shake as an apology for the inconvenience. And what does she do? She knocks the shake out of his hand. It goes flying everywhere. On him, inside the window, total chaos. She even has the nerve to beep her horn at him. And finally, karma starts to take hold. A couple minutes later, 2 police officers walk around the front of the drive-thru road, coming towards her. EW laughs at the manager, saying, "You really called the police?" The manager calmly responds, "No, ma'am, they were at the counter when I walked by covered in the shake you knocked over. They also heard your shouting and honking. I told them it was fine, but they wanted to check on the situation." At this point, the officers reached her car and told her if she doesn't pull forward and talk to them, they'll arrest her for assault and move the car themselves. She finally pulls around, but doesn't stop. She just speeds out of the parking lot. The police laugh. She has a very easy to remember plate, and they told the manager they're adding obstruction of justice for failing to comply with a lawful order when they track her down. I know not all posts here have happy endings, so I figured I'd share this one for the holiday season. Edit 1. Some people were confused about her not paying first. What happened was she was barking out her order and then just started to drive to the window. At this Chick-fil-A, you pay right with the person who takes your order, not at the window. Hopefully that makes it clear. Edit 2. Lots of folks are asking about an update. I really wish I had one, but I don't even know what ended up happening myself. I was just another customer. I've tried looking up her vanity plate, and apparently I'm not allowed to share it here, but haven't found anything related to it. If I do hear anything in the local news or get a flag for the vanity plate on Google Alerts, I will definitely update. Thanks, everyone! So I understand how these kiosks work for those of you who still might be confused. Basically, an employee goes out, they have an iPad, you then tell them your order, they submit the order on the iPad, and you pay at the iPad because they have little built-in card readers on them. So you submit your payment, then you drive forward, and you just get your food. It's the same thing at a Dutch Brothers, pretty much, which is a coffee place for those of you who don't have them in your area yet. So that's why the non-payment thing is definitely weird. But also, it really goes to show what kind of person someone is when they're arguing with someone who works at a fast food establishment and their go-to response as an insult is, "Oh, you're just a minimum wagey. You don't know what you're doing." Let me break it down in simpler terms because, you don't have a real job. It's that kind of attitude that fucking pisses me off. Fonzie's hair. Entitled neighbors? ? Waiting for Crocs that were delivered to the wrong house. A few weeks ago, my wife Grace ordered a pair of Crocs. She waited patiently, but they never showed up. Eventually, she reached out to Crocs customer service, who told her the package had been delivered weeks earlier. Grace was confused since nothing ever arrived at her house. They sent her the UPS delivery confirmation, which included a photo of a package sitting on a front porch. The problem? That wasn't our porch. Grace pointed this out to them, and they promised to investigate. Later, while out walking our dogs, Grace noticed a house on her street with a front door that looked identical to the one in the delivery photo. After checking the house number, we realized the delivery driver must have made a mistake. It was an easy mix-up to make. Now, here's the thing. The shipping label would have clearly displayed Grace's name and address. If the homeowners received it by mistake, you'd think they'd have the decency to drop it off or contact us. But nothing. And to make it worse, we know who lives there. A young couple with kids. We don't know them personally, but we see them around the neighborhood. Hoping to avoid conflict, Grace wrote a polite note explaining the situation. She included the delivery notice with the picture of their front door and her contact info, saying they could text her to arrange a pickup or just leave the package on her porch. We dropped the note in their mailbox, leaving it sticking out slightly just to ensure they'd see it. That evening, Grace walked by with dogs and noticed the letter was gone. They definitely picked it up. But as of now, crickets. No text, no package on her porch, nothing. At this point, I can't help but feel like they're just keeping something that isn't theirs. It's not even about the Crocs anymore, it's about the principle. How entitled do you have to be to not return something that was clearly misdelivered? We're giving them a little more time to do the right thing, but honestly, I'm losing faith. Partially related, but not 100% so. Once upon a time, I had an Amazon delivery driver deliver a package, take the photo to confirm delivery, then pick the package up and start to walk away with it. Then they turned around, noticed I had a doorbell camera, then went and put the package back and then left. And I can almost guarantee that if it wasn't for the doorbell camera, they probably would have just walked away with my package and, yeah. Eyes that do not see. Flip this script on Entitled Karen. This happened 3 or 4 months ago. I work at a military clinic as, at the time, a front desk receptionist. There was a lady that came in one day demanding that a doctor sign a sports physical form for her teenage daughter right away, or else her daughter won't be able to continue playing sports. Thing is, her daughter had lost the form that had already previously been filled out by the doctor. I explained to her that this more than likely would not be done right away, due to the doctor's busy schedule, and the fact that that particular doctor wasn't in yet. She insisted on waiting, even though the nurse had also said the same thing, that it may not be done right away. Finally, she decided to go home and wait for them to call her when it was done. Luckily for her, the doctor took the time to fill out the form as soon as he got it. The nurse called her and let her know that she could come and pick it up. When she got there, I handed her the form and told her to have a nice day. Immediately, she asked to speak to a supervisor. I kindly told her she could go to the second floor and speak to the patient rep. She proceeded to have a fit in the middle of the waiting room, claiming that I was rude to her and that I had a problem with her waiting for the form. Not true at all. Both I and the nurse told her that she was more than welcome to wait, but didn't recommend it due to the possible long wait time. She started blurting out some BS about her own kind not looking out for her. We're both AA. She then went to the patient rep and lied through her teeth. Security, who had to step in, sided with me because he had witnessed the behavior that day and before, apparently. The same lady had been escorted out of the building by security in the past. Needless to say, her complaint was thrown out. But here comes the cherry on top. I still work at the same clinic, and yesterday, the same lady came in causing trouble again. Again, she wanted to speak to the patient rep. But guess who the new patient rep is? Yours truly. You should have seen her face when she walked into my office. She definitely recognized me. And of course, she was the one causing trouble again. She told so many lies, just like she had done to me months before. I, of course, remained professional, and once I completed my investigation, which lasted all of 1 hour, I started the ball rolling to have her banned from the clinic/trespassed. She hasn't gotten the call yet, but boy would I love to be a fly on the wall when the higher-ups call her to give her the good news. I really wish that OP actually included the lie that was told to the patient rep the first time around, because I would have loved to read that and hear that. Like, for OP to write lied through her teeth like that, with no spaces, all periods, all caps, I really wish it was included. Although this post does make me want to cover Tales from the Front Desk again. Maybe I'll be able to cover that one in the near future. Glimmer Girl 1. Hey, it's me! Let me in! I read a post earlier that reminded me of this story from about 20 years ago. I had opened a small store inside a co-op building. My shop had a side door that was supposed to be an exit, but was unlocked during business hours. People would come in that door, which became a problem. It was a tight space, so people shopping in the aisle near the door would sometimes get hit by incoming patrons opening the door without looking, or run over by co-op patrons trying to cut through. So we ended up locking this door from the outside. Shoppers would then have to come in through the main entrance, but could exit the side door. The side door had a large window in it, so we put up a sign at about eye level that this door is an exit only, and to go to the main entrance, which, by the way, was about 15 feet to the right. People would literally peer around the sign to make eye contact and then knocked, like, hey, it's me, I don't have to walk 15 feet to the main entrance, let me in! I ended up wrapping a piece of cardboard with paper and blocked the whole window so they couldn't see inside. They still knocked, but I could ignore them. Also, silver lining was I varied the paper based on the season, so it was a fun thing to do. I know that in previous episodes I've talked about dealing with customers who show up like 30 minutes before the restaurant opens and try to get in and claim that, I've been here before and you guys can do this for me, right? It's just 30 minutes early. When like none of the machines are on, and dealing with that kind of shit. I've already talked at length about that. I think. Maybe that was during streams. I don't know. A lot of this stuff kind of just begins to mesh together into one finite stream of consciousness that I can't fully keep track of. But have y'all ever had interactions at your workplace where people do shit like this, or they try to come in through the wrong door, or come in early, or just dealing with customers where if they read the directions, they'd be directly directed in the right direction? The Iron Mountie. I know I'm not family anymore, but give me the details for your destination wedding. Welcome to my family drama. So I'm getting married in April and have a destination wedding in Cyprus. Because we have family all over the world and some have jobs where they need to close dates like a year in advance, we sent out save the dates as soon as we closed the venue, back in May. One of the people I sent a save the date to is my stepbrother's wife. Then, they started divorce proceedings this summer. I've never liked her, she's quite a nasty person, and she only ever speaks to me when she needs something. When I sent out the actual invites, I sent them with the names of all the invitees. So I sent my stepbrother an invite with his name, his stepdaughter, her daughter from a previous marriage who I see as a niece, and their child together. Her name was not on the invite. I knew this meant that it was very likely her children could not come since they would have to leave the country and she could prevent that, which I completely understand and is totally in her right. I understood that when I sent the invite, my stepbrother told me straight away that he and the kids would likely not be able to make it, but he'd let me know if things changed by the time he needed to RSVP. So that was 2 months ago. Haven't spoken to his wife since long before the divorce proceedings started. Today, she texts me, translated, "Hi, OP, when's the wedding and what hotel are you staying at? Send me so I can check options to come." I'm thinking to myself, girl, you aren't family, and this is a small destination wedding. What are you thinking? So I called my dad and stepmom to consult how to respond to her. Apparently, my stepmom asked if she could take her son, since my stepbrother can't go, and she wanted him to come to the wedding and see my siblings from North America. So stepsister-in-law started declaring plans already from that request, thinking it entitled her to an invite. I told my stepmom, I can understand her wanting to come if her ex-husband is coming with the kids, but what right does she think she has to come without my actual brother? Stepmom and dad agree she's delusional and help me verbalize a response to her. So I sent her, "Hi, stepsister-in-law. I sent the invite with all the details to stepbrother. You can arrange with him." I figured, okay, she'll understand that the initial invite was to her as my brother's wife, as in it only applies to them as a unit. But no. She responds, "OP, I don't know if you know, we aren't together. We're in divorce proceedings." My save the date, she actually said invite, but she never got an invite just to save the date, was deleted, hence I requested the details from you. So this woman, who I have near zero relationship with, who is no longer even speaking to my brother, thinks that she's still invited to my wedding. I spoke with my stepmom again, as she's always been the one who could match her crazy. She apologized for opening this can of worms and told me she would speak to her and explain the situation. I just can't imagine what la land she's living in that she thinks if she isn't even speaking to my brother and he can't even come to my wedding, that she can. Honestly, it sounds like OP's biggest hiccup with the crazy sister-in-law is the fact that she still wants to maintain a relationship with the children. My guess would be if it wasn't for that, she'd probably kick her to the curb. That's just my assumption though. And fuck, that sounds messy. Needs a nap. Entitled neighbor thinks it's my fault he backed into my parked car. I wasn't anywhere near at the time. First time posting in the sub and I'm weirdly excited. So my story took place several years ago. I work in a group home for adults with special needs. The building I work in is just a regular bungalow in a residential area. Parking isn't ideal because all we have is one narrow driveway. So if the driveway is free when you get there, fine. But if someone is already parked there when you arrive, you end up blocking them in if you park in the driveway. This is not ideal, as we often leave on errands for the residents during our shift. So when the driveway is occupied, we park on the street in front of the house. This is perfectly legal. I live in Canada, in an area that gets a ton of snow in the winter. So the only rules about parking are you can't block a fire hydrant, and from the 15th of October to the 15th of April, you can't park on the street from midnight to 7 a.m. This is to allow snowplows to do their job in the event of a storm. All other times of the day are fair game, and anything in the summer is acceptable. My story took place on a sunny afternoon in late June, so it was perfectly legal for me to park on the street. So I'm at work, doing my job, when there's a knock on the door. My coworker answered. Turned out it was the guy who lives across the street. He and his wife were heading out of town and were traveling in their truck, which had a trailer hitched to the back. My car was parked on the street across from him, and as he was backing out of his driveway, he backed his trailer right into my front driver's side wheel well. So I got out to inspect the damage, and he's already mad, saying how frustrating it is that people in our house are always parked on the street, makes it hard for him to get out of his driveway, etc. Mind you, this is the first time he said anything to any of us, but whatever. I didn't say anything to him, just looked at my car and saw the damage is pretty bad, ended up costing $2,000 to repair. So I just say, let's exchange insurance information, literally the only thing I've said to him at this point. And then he gets very angry, starts yelling and says he refuses to go through insurance, It's my fault for being parked on the street, and he'll pay for the damages, but only if I take my car to this guy he knows. His wife then adds that they were doing me a favor by even telling me. They could have just driven off. And while technically yes, but that's actually illegal, so no, you weren't doing me any favors. Again, I don't say much, I just reiterate that I'd like to go through insurance. He flat out refuses, which is also illegal. So I say, fine, I'm just going to call the police. At this point, he says he's not sticking around and he and his wife drive off. I called the cops. The cops arrive, see that I'm parked legally, and say there's no reason he shouldn't have been able to back out without hitting me. Now, here's perhaps the most annoying part. They track him down the next day and come back to me, let me know they've spoken with him. Turns out he's a retired guard for the local jail, and according to the officer who did the follow-up, he seems like a good guy. Quite nice. Well, yes, I'm sure he was nice to the cop. Me, the rather small female civilian, not so much. The cop tries to convince me to not go through insurance. Like, what? He's part of your club, so he gets a free pass to be a dick? No thanks. Dude verbally assaulted me for his mistake, then drove away from the scene of an accident. Fine him! Don't try to make this easier on him, he's a dick! I went through insurance. My insurance covered 100% of the cost and deemed it not my fault, which was a relief as it means my premiums were not affected. I'm pretty sure cops have to issue a ticket when a motor vehicle collision occurs, so not sure what happened with the neighbor, but I'm guessing he received some sort of fine because I know I didn't. I can't even imagine someone doing you wrong and actually costing you $2,000 worth of damage. So you contact the police and they return with, he seems like a nice guy and he's an old jail guard, so we're gonna advise that you don't go after him. That would be some pretty frustrating bullshit to have to deal with and encounter, and thank God OP's insurance actually saw through the mist of it and yeah, not your problem. In fact, if I were to actually guess, the insurance company is probably gonna go after the guy's insurance company and handle it behind the scenes. Hey, welcome to the outro. Don't forget this whole thing is basically brought to you by GamerSupps. If you like caffeine, then I can't recommend GamerSupps enough. Use code Oz at checkout to support the channel. And I do actually use this product. It's replaced all other sources of caffeine for me because I feel good. It doesn't have any of that extra stuff that a pre-workout blend might have. It's with a couple of the extra things to make it so you don't crash as hard. It's good. I like it. Personally, if you really want a good flavor, try the Soda Pressing Pear or even the Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are my personal favorites right now.